Hello, everyone. It's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. I want to talk a little bit about in-wheel motors or hub motors. We are all very familiar with Alafe. Alafe was going to be the powertrain for the Aptera. There were several issues that are non-technical, but more like timing-wise and finance-wise that made them transition over to the Vitesco motor, the more standard motor that Aptera is launching with. I think Aptera is still very friendly with Alafe. I had an interview with Alafe when I was at CES. The Alafe people were visiting Aptera and talking to Chris Anthony and the other Aptera people, and it seemed like they were on very good terms. So I think that there is still a chance in the future that Alafe hub motors or perhaps some other kind of hub motor gets incorporated into the Aptera. And of course, for Aptera to be an all-wheel drive vehicle, the rear wheel is not designed to have a chain or a drive shaft that runs the rear wheel. So that would have to be an in-wheel motor to have the rear wheel powered. And there has been a lot of progress in-wheel motors. Right now, before I went to CES, I knew of two in-wheel motor companies, two major ones, Alafe and Protein Electric. And I think Protein Electric was the very first, and then Alafe, and now there's a new company called Donut Lab. And Donut Lab has this really cool motor that has like a big cutout and it just looks like a donut. And they said that they have this motor that's 80 kilograms, seems pretty heavy, but generates insane power, 630 kilowatts and 4,300 newton meters of torque. That's fair. Those are fairly ridiculous specs. And then they have a drone motor and a scooter motor. So like this scooter motor is pretty interesting. And then there is a motorcycle motor, and this motorcycle motor is the one I think they have the most fully developed because they are launching it with this Verge motorcycle. So this Verge motorcycles has this electric motorcycle that has the donut motor in the back, gives it a really cool look. Now, here's what I found out is if you try to configure this, you'll see that none of these they're not available yet. Their estimated delivery for the most earliest available ones is Q3 of 2025. So these are still not commercially available. And when I talked to Donut Lab, I asked them, do you have a factory to make these at scale? And the answer that I got made me believe that they do not. They do not have a factory that can deliver them at scale. And the same thing with Alafe. Alafe does not have a factory that can deliver them at scale. And I believe that is the same case with Protein Electric. So all of these are companies that are looking for a large company that can fund their manufacturing plant. And unfortunately, I don't think Aptera needs funding for their own startup, and they can't fund a Alafe startup. And same thing with Donut Lab. And I think Verge Motorcycles also is a startup. So these companies, they have amazing technology. And I personally think that if the technology keeps developing the way it is, I mean, just look at this spec. This is a 150 kilowatt motor with 1,200 newton meters of torque at about less than 50 pounds. That's not very heavy. And so if you could make a motor that's much smaller, you could install that into the rear wheel of the Aptera, and you could use it as a pusher motor in cruise mode at highway speed and turn off the front motors, and you could make it very, very efficient. And Aptera was actually exploring this, and they were looking at like scooter manufacturers and things like that that had smaller motors. But I don't know exactly what the details of why it fell through. I don't know if it was timing or financing, or maybe they thought these scooter motors just did not have the robustness and the reliability to be used in an automotive grade product. Because scooters are meant for, there's a lot of scooter manufacturers in Asia that have these small scooters that are used in urban environments, but they're not putting on like, 20,000 miles a year. They're just, that's not the work duty that those motors are used to. And I think Aptera wants a motor that's going to last like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles. So they weren't quite ready, but there are these very cheap scooter motors. Like this one, this is like a 20-pound motor that generates, 15 kilowatts. And how much power do you really need to push it at highway speed? That I thought was interesting. And so I found this. I don't know if you guys ever know about eco modder, but like a long time ago when I was into eco modding and hypermiling and things like that, I used to go to this website quite a bit. But they have a little aerodynamic and rolling resistance calculator that estimates how much power you're going to need to maintain speed. So you put in the vehicle weight. So we know Aptera is about 2,200 pounds. I didn't change the rolling resistance. Coefficient drag 0.13, frontal area 24 square feet. And if you do that, let's say that you want to go 75 miles per hour. So 75 miles per hour with the Aptera, you're only going to need about 12 horsepower to maintain that speed on flat ground. Now, of course, there's not going to be flat ground. There's going to be some undulation, so you would need to build that in more. But it seems like a 30, 40 horsepower motor would be more than enough to push Aptera around at cruising highway speed with the front motors off like the vast majority of the time. And if you like came up on a big hill or a lot of headwind or something, I mean, even a lot of headwind's not going to bother you because like, look, a 30 horsepower motor could drive at 105 miles per hour. So that's like a 35 mile per hour headwind or 30 mile per hour headwind at 75 miles per hour. Now, when you're going up a grade, that's when you're going to need the power. And then you could certainly turn on the Vitesco motor. So you would need a very small in-wheel motor in the back to use it as a high efficiency, like pusher motor at highway speed. And that's something I know Aptera was considering and probably is still considering as an option. And that may be like the first iteration. I mean, this is just pure speculation on my part. But the easiest thing to do for them would be to add a small motor in the back and turn it into a very high efficiency motor to be used on the highway. And maybe in like where in times when you need higher traction, like in snow or something like that, or mud. And then the next step may be to transition fully to in-wheel motors. But yeah, there's 3 companies: Donut Motors, Alafe, and Protein Electric. Now, when I talked to Alafe, I asked them. So Alafe has improved their motors as well, and they have a motor that produces 200 kilowatts continuous of power. Not quite as high as the performance of the Donut Labs motor, but Alafe said that they have other iterations coming down that'll be much more powerful for the same amount of weight as this Sonic 1 motor. And they said that the biggest hurdle to making it lighter and more powerful is thermal management. Just having these high powers in these electric motors, you need to efficiently remove the heat generated by the motor, and the better you can do the thermal management, the better power you can generate out of these in-wheel motors. So that seems like that's one of the major things that they improved. And it seemed like this is a relatively new technology that that there's continuous improvements in. And so in the future, they expect these things to get lighter and better and stronger and more powerful. So I really hope that this comes back, because this is one of the technologies that a lot of us are really excited about. And it does have all these potential benefits of higher efficiency, simplicity of design, things like that, and just opening up more space within the vehicle for use for storage, for luggage, for people, that kind of stuff. So in terms of packaging, it makes it a lot easier as well. All right. Well, I thought that was very exciting to see all these developments. Both Donut Labs and Alafe were at CES. And again, like I said, the Alafe guys seemed very friendly with the Aptera guys. They were hanging out at Aptera's booth and chatting. And when I spoke to them, it seemed like there was still this possibility of a future collaboration. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Have a great day.